Merry meet all! Today I'm doing a garn post. Now originally I had done a vlog basically introducing the week ones of all these CALs I'm doing. CAL's an acronym for crochet along, in case you didn't know. And when it's a knit along, it's a CAL with a K opposed to a C. So anyway, but just because I'm converting the Garn colour palette to what is available here in Australia with DK Garn, I thought I would actually do a intro of what colours I have substituted for we're looking at today the Sirdar Gingerbread throw CAL. And this is week 1 complete. It hasn't been blocked yet. I was going to block it as I do the second week. However, I think I'd prefer to have all the week's individual pieces finished before I block and put them together, just so I can fit them well together, if you know what I mean. The other thing too is with the crochet alongs and knit alongs, I also, if they're like a homeware stuff, so like their throw, I then like to also make a big cardie or a oversized jumper or pullover, whatever you prefer, to also go along with that, if you know what I mean. Now when the blanket's individual squares, it's quite easy to convert that to a jumper or a pullover. But when you've got odd shapes, rectangles, squares and rounds and so forth, it's a bit hard to know what you're going to do when. You have a bit of an idea, but I'm going to wait until I've done the individual pieces. I already have an idea of how I want to have this as a oversized pullover to wear over tights. But I don't know, we'll see how I go. I might, after I finish week 2, I might go, oh darn it, I'm just gonna, no, I don't know, we'll see how we go. But anyway, so colour substitutions in the garn I'm actually using to substitute. So with these, and I'll add a link to the actual make along that Sirdar are doing with this gingerbread. We just finished the week 6, so when I say we, I mean like me and all the other people that are doing the crochet along or have done the crochet along. I'm not affiliated with Sirdar in any way, so it's just not paid or anything like that. So where was I? Anyway, colour substitution. So here in Australia we have a couple of main stores that do garn and other things as well, so fabric and sewing machines and all craft sort of thing. We've got Lincraft and we've got Spotlight. Spotlight is a Victorian Melbourne company, and you can order online, but you can also go into the store. One of the things I like to do is order online and then go pick it up at my local store, which is here in Wendouree, in Ballarat. So the garn I'm using is actually their own, akin to a no-name brand, is their own Spot Saver brand. It's a lot cheaper than the other garn. Sometimes it's half the price, and then they also have sales, which they take 40% off, which means you get a skein for $2.70 or $2.10 depending on the percentages off, instead of $4. I think it's $4.50 usually a skein, which is 100 grams. And they also have a nice big colour range, which is something I look for, because I would rather be consistent with the garn I use for projects like this than have mismatched garn, if you know what I mean. Because even with the same brand and same brand and type of garn being put out there. There's variations between dye lots, you know, and some dyes make the garn actual tighter and smaller in gauge than others. So, you know, there's bad enough we have that, but then when you start introducing different brands, I like continuity, if you like. So anyway, without further ado, so the crochet along asks for 3 cream or white. Now when you actually have a look at their actual color choices, their cream actually looks like our white, but I've decided to continue just use the cream anyway. Something about the cream adds a bit of an old world feel to it when it's in this, you know, more muted tone opposed to almost white cream, if you like. So I've decided to go with the equivalent of cream in the DK garn, and they require three skeins. Now I also have basically 1.5 times the amount of garn that's required for myself, because remember, I'm going to make a pullover with this pattern theme. What I might do is when I finish doing the pullover, I might actually publish it in Ribbler, so for the cost of a coffee sort of thing, on how I've done it, and you know, any tweaks I've done as well to make it fit right. But anyway, digressed. The next colour they're using is actually golden. Now this colour here, traditionally when it comes to gingerbread, you're looking at like a light brown. This is also the same brand. Off the top of my head, it's Latte. So it's probably on the slightly too darker side for gingerbread, and it looks a little bit grey on the camera compared to how it actually is. However, the golden adds a nice gingery warmth to it, and I've used the equivalent of gold, in the DK garn instead of their golden. They require 2 skeins of that. The other colour they require is, as in Sirdar, is Gentle Jade, and 2 skeins of that. And Gentle Jade is this minty sort of colour. The equivalent of the Gentle Jade that I could source from the same brand and DK I'm using is actually mint, and that's that colour there. I really love it with red. It's one of my favourite combos. So that brings me to the next colour, which is this red. They are using Ladybird. I have and 2 skeins of that. I have switched that out for the red. The other colour as well that I haven't done a cake of. I'll get into why I like using cakes and why I wind up my skeins into cakes when it comes to projects ahead of time. But this one here is actually what they have got here. This is already the start of week 2. Is they have peaches, 1 skein of peaches. I have substituted that for apricot in the same Spotlight DK garn. Going next is emerald. So they require 2 skeins of emerald, which is this one here. I have actually switched that out for cadmium. Cadmium's got like a little bit of a bluish undertone. There is a bottle green. I'm going to sneeze, hang on. Sorry. The joys of doing vlogs where you don't edit. There is a bottle green, which is more of a darker muted tone green, but I think cadmium and mint together are just delightful. They blend so well. So I have chosen the cadmium in the DK garn from Spotlight, 2 skeins. The other colour they use is bright yellow, 1 skein of bright yellow, which is the equivalent of this bad boy here. Now I'm using gold. What's it? Is it bright? No, golden, bright gold or something. Oh, what is it? I've got I might as well get the label so you can see it. So this is the actual label itself, which is probably what I should have done at the beginning. So it's sun gold, that's it, because this is gold and this is sun gold. So it's the yellow, bright yellow. So I've just switched it out for the golden yellow. And that's their bright yellow. I've switched it out to sun gold, sorry. So I should probably edit that on my little index card. So this is something else I like to do with projects, is I like to make up a recipe card for the recipe of the project I'm doing. That way I can archive notes and then I can file it away, you know. So that way, sun gold, there you go. I'll do a fresh one later because this one's been edited a few times. So that brings me to the next color. They're using pink, which is basically this kind of pink, and I'm using the pink from the same brand from Spotlight. The last color they've got here is tomato, which is actually a really dark, almost like heirloom tomato red, not like, you know, your orangey red, which I have substituted that for Claret, which is also very Yuletide sort of red as well. I love those two reds together. And that brings me to the skeins of garn I'm using. So yeah, in my index cards, recipe cards, I like to put a notion of the hooks size or needle size I'm using, obviously the label, also the size, the colours being used, or the ingredients basically at the front, and any notes at the back. Usually I do a synopsis of what is being done first, i.e. so it's the pullover, it might be the front panel, then the back panel, then sleeves, and then a rough notation. Sometimes I put on how many chains or stitches are being cast on and that sort of thing. If I have to use more than in one index card, I tend to staple them together. And anyway, so I like doing this. I've done this for years now, and I've got a little archive of projects I've created and saved away. And it is it's immeasurable that you have that resource, because sometimes you want to do something similar, or you know, you want to create something using the same color scheme or whatever it is, or someone asks you, you've got this as reference, and it's kind of a nice little archive of what you've completed as well. But you know, what can I say? I'm a little bit of a magpie raven. I like collecting things. You know, I am not a minimalist, I'm a maximalist, put it that way. I like lots of little things, and yeah, I'd be happy as a clam to be a raven collecting little shiny objects and pebbles and things like that. I'd just be happy doing that all day. So anyway, so with the week one, at first I thought it was a corner crochet project, you know, where you do corner crochet, but it is actually a series of now it's in UK terms, so I thought I'd point that out to you. So pretty much UK terms is the older version of crochet, and US terms are more simplified. So the treble in UK is a double crochet in US terms. For simplicity and more universal sort of terminology, I tend to lean towards the US side when it comes to reference, and I convert it in my head as I read UK straight away, instead of, you know, going US and converting it to UK when I look at a pattern from the US, America, or the States. But yeah, I tend to go more the universal route. That goes for hook sizes too. I like to use the millimeters that the hook is in, opposed to the hyphened lettering system that the US uses as well. So, you know, to bear that in mind. So if you're used to using US terminology in crochet, when they say do a double crochet, it's a single crochet. When they say do a treble, it's a double crochet. They do note this in the pattern, so you know, but I thought I'd just, because if you were to use their terminology, you'd end up with a blanket, as though it was US. You'd end up with a throw which is probably 3 to 4 times larger than, and it will be a lot more floppier as well. But I think this is delightful. In the actual, I think it's, so week 2 is literally panels. Week 3 are candy squares, and I think week 3 is when you actually put the icing on the actual gingerbread house. Don't quote me on that. But with their playlist that Sirdar have, I'll actually save a playlist that you can use. When I looked at their playlist with Sirdar, their actual site, I think they had week 4 and week 5 and week 3, or they had 2 weeks missing out of the playlist. So I've actually saved the weeks that were missing on my own playlist, which is pretty much goes to Sirdar anyway. But I'll add a link to the visual playlist, especially if you're a visual person, so you might like to watch as you crochet along if you like. And you can literally work off the pattern straight from the video. You don't really have to refer to the pattern. You can do either or, so it just depends how you like to do it. I think it's good to be proficient in both, and if you're not, it's a good way of testing and leveling up your skills. So I'll add a link to the playlist I've created with the crochet alongs and knit alongs that I've done and doing, and there will be a lot more added to it because I've obviously done a lot more crochet alongs and knit alongs. And for those that actually have videos that you can follow, I'll actually link that on there. I'm not affiliated in any way, I'm just sharing. Sharing is caring. So last of all, I bought a Knit Pro wool or garn winder. I think it's about over a month ago, 2 months ago, and I love centre pull garns. Now in this week 1, they actually want you to use 2 different skeins of the same colour, so you can work one way into the house and one way or the other into the house with another piece of garn. One of the wonderful things about the Knit Pro wool winder is you've got a centre pull, which means you don't have balls of garn flying everywhere as you're working, especially with multicolours. But then the end that you finish with at the end, so your start is your centre pull, your ending thread, you just, tuck it in. You can actually work off the end of the garn and also the centre pull, which will work like you're working off 2 different skeins of the same colour, which makes it really handy for that sort of situation when they ask you to work the same colour but 2 different skeins. You can use the same skein, that you can use a centre pull, and then you can use the outer garn as well. Do I do that? No, I just use two of the same colour with a centre pull. I just use a centre pull on each. I just prefer centre pulls because I don't like it when garn's rolling all around the place, and half the time I've got hay or cat hair on the carpet if I haven't vacuumed yet, and the last thing I want is bits of hay and cat fur and feathers from my feathered babies in my actual garn that I'm stitching together. But anyway, so I thought I'd do a bit more of a spaced out vlog on a week of one of the CALs I'm doing, and this is the Gingerbread CAL. There's also another festive CAL that I'm going to do that I haven't even started. I was aiming to start the week 1 quite a while ago, but I'm just struggling with time. What's new? And that is the Nordic Noel crochet along, and the first week is literally 4 different trees and there's a loop stitch in there. So yeah, I don't know, I'm sort of keen to get on to week 2 of this CAL now. See how I go. But I'm definitely going to do a intro post to the crochet alongs and knit alongs that are available to the public that are free, with my garn substitutions for here in Australia. and any notations on the actual pattern and things I'm doing with it. Definitely doing that. And I might do a quick vlog on the weeks as I do completion as well, per individual CAL or knit along, because when I put them all together it's a little bit congested, I found, when I did that vlog. So hopefully this is spaced out a little bit better, and isn't so much of a mind melt, especially for beginners. Anyways, blessed be merry part. I hope you're all having a wonderful festive season. If it's down here in the southern hemisphere, we're in Baltana, we're in the tide of summer. 21st of December is our midsummer or Letha, whereas in the northern hemisphere the 21st marks the solstice, winter solstice. So solstice in Latin is when the sun stands still. So it's literally based on the seasons. The seasons are for the seasons, you know. That's what it's really all about, is the seasons, your connection to what is going on your patch of dirt in relation to the cosmos and how we're facing the sun, and, you know, living with it opposed to in opposition to it, because that way we get more out of our days and we're living in sync. So we're surfing with the tide instead of, you know, enforcing how we want to do things. It makes life a lot easier. Why make life harder for yourself? If you're in the middle of the globe, you don't really have to worry about, you know, winter and summer. It's pretty much the same all year round, which is fine. But I love the contrast of the two seasons and the lead up of each and the decline of each. But I mean, that's my culture and ancestry, so I really do love that and lean into that. That's kind of my inner compass as a human of those of that genealogy. Anyway, blessed be merry part. Have a wonderful festive season, and yeah, if you haven't done this crochet along, I do recommend it. It's fun. Nothing like building up little heirlooms like this, and on a cold, grey, dreary day, having something fun and bright and cheery like this always makes you feel good. And I really want to have so many of these things done for our winter, when we have our winter in May, June. And yeah, I really want to be prepared for the winter, because when it hits you don't get much done, and you want to be prepared for it, especially here in Ballarat. It's pretty crazy and windy and wet and nutters, and daylight is almost non-existent. Anyway, speaking of which, it's so dark in this house, but you know, even though it's during the day and we're in summer, but it's the way this place is, it's always pretty dark. So sorry about that. One day I'll get lighting, good lighting. I've got the light on in here, believe it or not. Anyway, I'm waffling now. I probably need to go top up my coffee and get a pitcher of water as well, so I can crack on with all this sort of stuff. Blessed be and merry part.